What if I told you there was a time when going outside could literally freeze your lungs solid, and humanity had to fight tooth and nail just to see another sunrise? Meet Marcus, a 28-year-old farmer turned survivor in 1320 England, who's about to show you what real winter warfare looks like. Picture this nightmare. Marcus steps outside his hovel and watches his spit freeze before it hits the ground. The year, 1320. The event. The Little Ice Age, a 550-year frozen apocalypse that made Game of Thrones' endless winter look like a tropical vacation. This wasn't some gentle snowfall you'd post on TikTok. We're talking about a climate catastrophe so brutal it rewrote human history. The Baltic Sea froze completely solid. Imagine an ocean turning into a parking lot of ice. Wolves, driven mad by hunger, formed massive packs that terrorized entire villages like something out of a horror movie. Marcus lives in what's basically a medieval death trap. Walls made of mud, sticks, and prayers. His heating system, a fire pit in the middle of his single room that fills the air with so much smoke. He's basically hotboxing himself with carbon monoxide daily. The rich folks weren't much better off. Their stone castles were like living inside giant refrigerators with fancy tapestries. But here's where Marcus becomes a legend. When temperatures dropped so low that wine froze solid in barrels, he didn't just survive, he thrived. This guy turned into a medieval survival expert that would make Bear Grylls jealous. First crisis, food storage without refrigeration. Marcus built underground ice cellars that stayed frozen year-round. He perfected meat preservation techniques, using salt, smoke, and herbs that kept beef edible for months. When grain stores ran low, he ground acorns into flour. Yeah, the stuff squirrels eat became human survival food. Then came the water crisis. Wells didn't just freeze, they exploded from ice expansion, destroying entire water supplies overnight. Marcus learned to read ice thickness like a survival manual. Too thin. You're swimming with medieval fish. Too thick. You're spending 3 hours chopping through it with primitive tools just to get a bucket of water. Transportation became a death sentence. Roads turned into ice highways of terror where horse-drawn carts slipped into frozen ravines. Marcus watched entire merchant convoys disappear into blizzards, never to be seen again. Food supplies to cities got cut off for months. Imagine if every grocery store in America suddenly went empty for half a year. The Great Famine of 1315 hit like a nuclear bomb made of ice and starvation. Rain fell for 2 straight years, not gentle spring showers, but biblical floods that turned farmland into Arctic swamps. Crops rotted in fields that looked like frozen lakes. Cattle plague killed 80% of livestock in some areas. Marcus watched his neighbors slowly waste away, their bodies consuming muscle and organ tissue just to stay alive. People started eating things that would make you vomit just thinking about them. Tree bark soup became a delicacy. Parents abandoned children they couldn't feed. There are documented cases of people digging up fresh graves for food. Marcus kept a detailed mental inventory of every grain of wheat, every dried pea, every scrap of salted pork, like his life depended on it, because it literally did. Winter entertainment became survival training disguised as fun. Marcus strapped sharpened animal bones to his boots and ice skated across frozen rivers, not for Instagram likes, but to check fishing holes and transport supplies. Snowball fights turned into community military drills because when spring came, starving bandits would raid villages for whatever food remained. The psychological warfare was brutal. Imagine spending 6 months in near-total darkness, with temperatures so cold that metal tools would shatter like glass. Marcus learned to recognize the early signs of cabin fever in his neighbors. The 1,000-yard stare, the muttering, the sudden violent outbursts over scraps of bread. But here's the plot twist that saved Marcus's life. Community warfare tactics. Villages formed survival alliances. They shared knowledge like military intelligence. Who had spotted edible plants? Which families had extra firewood? Where were the safest river crossings? Marcus became part of a medieval survival network that operated like a resistance movement against nature itself. The social collapse was spectacular. King Edward II became so hated that revolts erupted across England. The Catholic Church, supposed to provide spiritual comfort, got blamed for God's apparent abandonment. Marcus witnessed public executions of tax collectors who tried to collect grain from starving farmers. Medieval cancel culture involved actual pitchforks and torches. Marcus survived by becoming a human Swiss Army knife. He learned blacksmithing to repair broken tools, herbal medicine to treat frostbite and malnutrition, basic veterinary skills to keep surviving livestock alive, and even primitive weather prediction by reading cloud patterns and animal behavior. The turning point came when Marcus realized something profound. The Little Ice Age wasn't just about surviving winter, it was about outsmarting a planet that had turned hostile. He started thinking years ahead, not just seasons. Summer wasn't for relaxing. It was for preparing for the next winter apocalypse. By 1350, Marcus had transformed from a simple farmer into a medieval survival specialist. He could predict weather patterns, preserve food for years, build shelters that retained heat efficiently, and lead community survival efforts. He'd become the kind of person others looked to when the world ended. The Little Ice Age finally released its grip around 1850, but it left scars on human civilization that lasted centuries. It toppled empires, sparked the Protestant Reformation, and pushed human ingenuity to levels that wouldn't be seen again until the Industrial Revolution. Marcus's descendants carried his survival knowledge forward. His techniques for food preservation, community organization, and resource management became the foundation for how humans would handle future crises. He proved that when nature declares war on humanity, the humans who adapt, innovate, and work together are the ones who write the next chapter of history. Could you survive 550 years of frozen hell with nothing but medieval technology and pure human determination? Marcus did, and his story proves that humans are capable of surviving literally anything when we refuse to give up. If these incredible survival stories blow your mind like they do mine, hit that subscribe button, because history's most brutal challenges reveal the most amazing examples of human badassery you'll ever hear.